My first novel was Hanger Stout Awake, and that's hanger as in clothes hanger, but it has to do with a young man who finds that he has a very high threshold of pain, and he can hang longer from a bar than anybody else. He's a natural athlete at this. And I used to enjoy saying that I was hoping this would become a sport recognized by the NCAA, and that there would be hanging contests with marching bands, cheerleaders, but I understand that hasn't happened. It's a whimsical idea, certainly, but Hanger it's a comic novel too, as you might surmise. But Hanger is also something of a saint, that is to say, his high threshold of pain is something of a metaphor for his ability to withstand the scorn and the ridicule of other people. He's a pathologically poor speller, and has just graduated from high school, just being moved through. He's not been a success in anything. He works in a filling station. In fact, in the Book of the Month Club review, it was mentioned that the reviewer several years later referred to Hanger Stout Awake as the first of a series of novels about automobiles, the automobile culture.
When I was reading Hanger Stout, the first thing I thought of was Christian imagery of hanging from the cross.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that a fanciful interpretation?
No, I think it's perceptive. This occurred to me too, of course. And he is a kind of a Christ-like figure. I think of him as a comical saint. I mean, he's comical. He's obviously limited. He doesn't know a past participle from a pileated woodpecker. But he makes no demands upon life or other people. He accepts everything as he finds them. And I think there's I intend a kind of saintliness in this. And I'm not sure I believe in saints. I'm not sure what I believe in. As with most of the great questions, my answer is always yes and no, and not yes or no.
Well, there certainly is a transformative moment at the end, and I'm not going to talk about what exactly it is.
Well, I can, but go ahead.
And I was actually expecting a tragic end.
Oh, you were?
Yes, I was.
Uh-huh.
And I can tell you more when I turn off the microphone. But
sure. Well, that's interesting, and I can see why you would do that, especially with the Christ imagery too. But I like the idea of his endurance, his durability, the simple, dumb persistence. And he's not really stupid. I think this is a mistake. He's flawed, as we all are, but he has a perception. And one place, for instance, where this is manifest is Comiskey is living with his mother. And Comiskey is the one who is trying to establish the sport of, in quotation marks, of free hanging. Hanger keeps talking about his drinking, or maybe it's his mother, keeps drinking tomato juice. And then later on he says she must have been too drunk. So you think he doesn't know tomato juice from a Bloody Mary. And then later on it turns out that he is aware that there's a vodka in it, or there's booze in it. And he does know that she's gotten drunk. And I think it's Comiskey's mother.
Bloody Mary, Christ imagery,
there you go, absolutely.
If I remember, the character is going to be drafted?
Oh, yeah. And in fact, I sketched out once the possibility of a sequel. In fact, I bought the plates from Harcourt and brought out a paperback edition of 3,000 copies, and it sold right away, practically. I mean, it was read in high schools and colleges. I had a long telephone interview from a high school teacher in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And this was great fun, of course, who had used the text. In that, I mentioned that I don't know what Hanger's doing now, but whatever he's doing, I figure he's all right. Because, again, I admire his perseverance. And the fact that he doesn't make demands, there's something almost saintly in that he simply accepts people for what they are, and doesn't really have any illusions about them, which of course can be a kind of negative intelligence anyway.
Everyone faces boredom at one time or another during their teenage years. How vividly do you remember those days of boredom? I do. During the summer after high school, I remember I had a part-time job working at a supermarket. I spent a lot of time listening to both classical music and heavy metal music. I prepared Dungeons & Dragons adventures and tried my hand at writing stories. I read books, played basketball, and went to movies with my girlfriend. I was an introverted teenager who didn't mind being left alone. Hanger Stout Awake is about a teenage boy at a similar point in his life. He works at a gas station and dabbles in poetry and cars. Clyde Stout wanders around junkyards and writes long letters to a girl named Penny. Teenagers are bored a lot, and they have time to notice things around them that most adults pay no attention to. There's a time when no one expects anything of you except to stay out of trouble. Clyde does that well. He's not trying to do anything important. He's content just sitting back and listening to whatever the adults around him are talking about. The primary incident of this novella is that an out-of-towner introduces Clyde to a new sport called hanging. Clyde tries it and happens to be good at it, or so he's told. This out-of-towner invites Clyde to participate in a hanging competition with the possibility of winning a large cash prize. It sounds tempting, but is it for real? This widely praised novella doesn't have much plot or urgency. It has no superheroes or villains. It's less about achieving something than realizing the incredible freedom that comes with boredom. Clyde has time to notice the ephemeral things and to enjoy the minor distractions of life. He spends his time admiring the cars that pass through the gas station and traipsing through a junkyard in search of a perfect rear view mirror for his old 1956 Chevy. This novella is not so much a character portrait than a description of a time when almost nothing seemed important. A year later, it's likely that Clyde will have almost no memories of the events described in this novella. Decades later, will we be able to remember the time in their lives when we had so few worries and responsibilities that we were bored out of our minds? A postscript. When I read Hanger Stout Awake, I, like Jack Matthews, assumed that free hanging was a completely made-up sport. To my surprise and delight, I learned that some person on YouTube named Nick Simmons has been offering people cash prizes for doing a dead hang for a designated period of time. Yes, sometimes real life can be stranger than fiction.